I love having a panel so beautiful that it makes me want to go to the older format style, not the super old one, to the earlier days of the channel, but as it were, one where I just can just look at the panel, because I love how Ignia looks while he's flying, and his fire hair is like extra along his spine, so it's almost like a, I imagine it's almost kind of like a rocket engine, like propelling him on top of everything else. And I like how on top of everything of that, you have the fact that you have him like flying at this high speed, but in this panel he's just kind of focused. He just looks like, all right, we're getting shit done today, kind of like mentality. But as the last chapter was, like, we had the whole ending with Lucy going up against Dragon Caramel, and I'm curious to know as well, just as an additional thing, as the rate that these guys are going to dragonize, are we going to see her become more dragon-like every little bit in the chapter? I have this really, you know, this is my vision of how things can go, as I like how the fights are set up right now, at least as what they are. I know we're going to get some more, and I would like to see where everybody's at before we really get to conclusion of any of these battles. But I would love to see everybody kind of get set up, and then we focus on Selene at some point, because I would really like it if it's like everybody's starting to kind of lose a little bit. Maybe not Natsu. I really don't think even in his full dragon form that Brian is going to be able to defeat full power Natsu. I just don't really see that being the case. We'll see how that fight goes. Like, if it was more like Wed or Lekka, it'd be different. And I'm still wondering if we're going to get any other Fire and Flames members that we haven't met yet. I think we have a pretty solid group so far, and I imagine as dragons they're going to all be able to, you know, replicate a level of power that fits such a role. But with how they are right now, I'm hoping that Natsu's is, if any of them really finish, I guess to say, is like Natsu's, whereas like whatever Urza, Wendy, Gray, and all them end up fighting like Lucy and Caramel right now, I hope those aren't resolved. I would like to see those progress. Like, say that next chapter, or at least maybe next point in the fight, we see Lucy and Brandish are winning, but then Caramel starts to get further in her dragon form. Because if we get to a point where, say, Caramel goes into her full dragon form, and Lucy and Brandish don't really know what to do, because at this point it's like, oh, well, she's in her full dragon form, now we can't use magic against her. We have, say, oh, focus switch everybody onto Selene. Selene gets freed, and, you know, they destroy the Lacrima, and Selene is able to get in her normal mental state. She ends up using her just normal abilities, teleport, aid all around to go fight people. And then you have Kyria and I'm trying to think who else besides Kyria. Probably just Kyria. Maybe Nibaru shows up to go and fight against Caramel. I think that would be really cool, because we don't really know still, like, what the general ideas of a person turning into a dragon, like what the ratio of, like, oh, is, you know, do they become 1,000 times stronger, 10,000 times stronger, or like what exactly is. We know that like the lower ends of Dragon Force, even its earliest stages, are like a couple fold, like 2 to 3 folds, and then in higher ends, when you start to get more of like the unique traits, like colored scales and stuff, it's closer to like the 3 to like 500-600s, just based off of what we know about like loss aspect and whatnot. And then, as we've seen, like the gap between Selene in her human and dragon form is so massive that it just kind of like skips almost like 2 tiers of power. So you're probably getting like hundreds and hundreds, thousands of times stronger, if not more, between like the full capabilities of those two sets. Because like the dragon gods, obviously in their humanoid form, aren't going to be able to draw out the full strength that they can in their dragon form. The only one you could say is Alderaan with all of his god seeds up, because that's the whole point, is his human form, you know, humanoid form is able to do that, but only while he's fully stabilized. But as it were, we have Natsu versus Brian. I kind of want their fight to be maybe a little inconclusive. Maybe he doesn't get his full dragon form, but he gets a little further progressed here, and he's losing to Natsu, and he has to do like a retreat. I think that would be really cool when we get like a more of a fight with him later. I really like the idea for some of the characters to have these reoccurring fights, you know, because it's hard to say like who do you really want to have like as many times on screen, whereas like you had Kyria had a bunch of fights, and I actually really enjoy Kyria as a character. even though we have like pretty much her mostly taking L's, but we've seen all these different sides to her, and we've seen her interactions with so many different characters that it just makes her enjoyable from the standpoint once we kind of connect everything. And then obviously having her as an ally, and she's just not coming off as a psychopath. But Ignia going to fight Ferris is extremely intriguing, because the way that 100 Years Quest kind of feels with the ending of Alvarez is it feels like Mishima had, like, he wanted to end Alvarez, but he wanted to keep things in a way for the future. And with Ignia, it's almost like he's making up with Acnologia of how he had to defeat Acnologia, because he couldn't have Acnologia defeated at a point where Natsu was the same level of power or able to replicate it. There was a lot that went into it, not just the being enchanted by everybody there from Wendy, but also being crippled from his body in the over in Argion, being stuck in Fairy Sphere on a ship that crippled his spirit's like capabilities as well. So it's like he was just all around in different areas, weakened and nerfed, and then obviously the one arm he was missing from his fight with Igniel. So when you look at like how kind of it is, and it's like that was one of the things that people really wanted to see in the in the setup for Alvarez, was the idea of a fight, even if it wasn't a full length fight or like with the decisive winner of Zera versus Acnologia, and we didn't get that. But now we're going to be having that with Ignia and Ferris. I'm very intrigued to see where this goes. And this is honestly, I would say, more of my interest and my focus on the chapter, because with Lucy, the stuff with Lucy, I felt was like, I feel like it's very, very clear just to see from the setting. Obviously, she's in a water setting. Personally, for me, I thought Lucy was going to go more towards Celine, but I'm guessing maybe Irene. Urza is going to go towards Celine. It's because of the Irene, Celine. Every time I think about them and then their interactions, I always get annoyed that like their names, I imagine in the Japanese, it's not as annoying to kind of mispronounce, but just because they're so like close to each other, and their aspects of their character traits are similar, and then also they actually have interactions and like story points together. So I always mess like just like the back and forth between them. I think I have that actually on record of me mixing up Celine Irene a couple times before too. Like Urza being over there, I don't know, it keeps my Dragon Slayer Jalal theory alive. But Lucy over with, in water territory, I feel like the Aquarius aspect of it is very clear. And then, like I said, the idea for me would be like she gets aid, Brandish, and then Kyria. So here we have Brandish showing up at the end of the chapter, super hype. But something again that I would have been like, yeah, okay, cool. That's something that I feel like was very, very easy to figure out if you just kind of like know the setup for Lucy specifically. Also, water environment, like obviously the key of Aquarius. There's no better time, I imagine, would be like, unless it's like a straight fire boss, like she's fighting one, she's like, man, I really wish I had a water ability right now that they could do stuff here. Because like she has like, it's weird because like Lucy has like half a key with Aquarius, because she's able to use the Stardress form with it and use it in the Stardress mix, but she can't summon Aquarius, which makes me wonder if that also means that in her Aquarius form she's not able to draw out the full power. Like maybe this is only like half of what she would normally have in Aquarius form. Who knows? That's just kind of like an extra thing. I really like the idea though that like even with the key broken, not being able to do the summon, you always can do just the normal Stardress and Stardress mix, just because it makes it so it still has value to keep the keys, and the keys themselves will have value. Because like, what if Lucy eventually finds what if Lucy eventually finds broken keys of other keys, like she gets Pisces and Libra, but she has broken ones from previous users, and she's able to kind of at least get the Stardress forms in her Stardress mixes, which would be really cool personally. But I feel like it's extra. I mean, with her like her Stardress mix with Aquarius and Gemini, she can just make Yukino anyway. But she ends up using Aquamatoria, usually, as it were. That's like Lucy's almost like combat engagement move. It's really not like a big power move. It's nothing crazy. She's just kind of like using like a crushed like water pressure kind of like blast, and then she's got like the whole one where she does it with land. It's not as like intense of a move. It's mostly just like a frontal offensive spell. So it's not too surprising to me that it gets kind of like moved around a lot of the time, because it's really nothing nothing wild in Lucy's arsenal. It is literally like the idea for her, like most other characters, of like their basic melee, like not using Fire Dragon, Iron Fist. Like it's a pretty basic move for her. I never expect much of that move. Like if we were doing something like Aranometry, a different story. But we have a bit here too where she's saying that they thought they were only gonna have to destroy the Lacrima, and splitting up was a bad mistake. The thing though for me, because I don't think splitting up and going over there is a bad idea, because here's the it depending on, because here's the thing, none of them can really fight the dragon gods, even as a group, really. Like the only way is if Natsu gets the Ignia boost, or you get enough people together to boost Natsu. But now like everybody's so widespread, there's a lot going on, I don't think they can risk that. So it's not like any of them are planning to go fight the dragon gods, except for Natsu, who went to go fight Ignia, but that's because of Natsu and Ignia. But their all intentions was to go destroy the Lacrima, stop people from being turned into dragons, and free the dragon gods from the control. So it's not that going there split up was a bad idea. It depends on if they had, again, hey, we need to get contacts of what's going on. Like if we find out that Brandish was told by Eleftheria while Lucy and co were all going out, that would, bam, right there, good, solid set. If they just decided to all split up and they had no plan, and this is just people are going to show up coincidentally, I think that is definitely bad planning on the group members, like whole aspect. Like they're just kind of thinking really rash, which is understandable from a standpoint of being in their situation of, just the chaos of it. But obviously it'd be like, yeah guys, that was a bad idea. I personally feel like it just makes sense for like Eleftheria and them, while they're like, hey, well, we're going out, contact XYZ, or like send out word, and they're gonna get backup in some locations. I don't imagine Natsu really needs much backup when it comes to Brian. We'll see about that. Brian can really surprise me, but Brian's magic doesn't seem that dangerous for somebody like Natsu. And Natsu doesn't, it's not like his fire is something crazy and insurmountable to Natsu. He just seems to be grossed out by it. He doesn't want to eat it. So if it ever came down to it, he should be relatively fine in that market. And Brian doesn't seem to have anything really crazy about like his ability. Granted, we don't know too much about his like whole hand thing, but I just don't really see anything, at least right now, that is a threat to Natsu. But, we'll see. Obviously, becoming a dragon is just going to augment his abilities further by just default. I also really liked in this chapter, we got a little bit of Lucy just Stardress lore. Not lore, like power explanations. Like, she summons Cancer, and Cancer can't breathe while he's underwater. And again, that's one of those things that, to me, I think, like, I would have tossed it up in the air. I like we got confirmation on that, because it's like, yeah, he's a aquatic based character, but as far as we know, he's just a dude. Like, he doesn't have any crab features. He just has a haircut, and like the crab legs, I think those are like part of his outfit. I don't know if those are actually part of his body, now that I think about it. I could be wrong on that one. That's what I've, because like it looks kind of like it's coming out of his back, but how do we know that's not just his shirt? But yeah, Cancer's just doing his thing. I'm surprised he couldn't move fast though, because even if he couldn't breathe, like he should still be able to get like an attack or two in. Or maybe he showed up without the knowledge he was underwater, tried to breathe and got water in his nose. I don't know. But I really like that Lucy in this, like, we get confirmation she can breathe underwater while she's in her Aquarius Stardress. I think that's really cool. I'm a big fan of when forms have like passive abilities, and like, just a character having something extra, like, oh, in this form, I'm able to every 10 seconds I can teleport 10 feet, and I have a resistance to like poison and I don't know, acid. Just like small things that add to it. So it's like, oh yeah, you have situational times where just this character, by default is in a better spot, and nothing has to be different other than the power matchups. And it's not even the power matchups, it's just a resistance versus a perk. I think that'll be really cool if we ever get something like that. But Lucy's like kind of having a moment where she's thinking about Aquarius, and it's funny too, because like she's not like, the moment isn't like she's like getting really pressed and she's like, oh man, I can't win this fight, because she's getting hurt. But it was more of like she just got hit by an attack while kind of like let down by Cancer. and she's not even really damaged too much. She's got like some scrapes from the attack, but she just kind of seems to be kind of spaced out just thinking about it, which makes me wonder if Lucy's just like, she's taking this fight as seriously as she should. Because I don't think that this fight Lucy is going to, at least at this point, we'll see later as things progress, I don't think Lucy is much at a danger spot where she feels that threatened. Because she's also still in her just regular Stardress. She's not using Stardress Mix. And we know now that Stardress Mix, like, she can stay in the form for a while and do more than just one move. She can use it for a while. And she is, you know, she should be a pretty good chunk stronger than even where she was in the Dogre Labyrinth. So, and like, if she used her Aquarius Gemini Stardress Mix here, she should be able just to pretty much, Godfrey this chick, like, almost immediately. So, we'll see. I do not believe, until we get to that full dragon form, I do not believe that they are immune to magic, or, you know, that have that high resistance, borderline immunity to magic. I would say, like, maybe she would have some resistance, or at least just a very enhanced durability, but I do not believe that she would have this. We've never really had any form of set time where it's been confirmed in the process, other than when they are full dragons. So we'll see. We know that their organs will shift, and maybe they gain some of, like, the perks, like, yeah, regrowing organs. But as far as we know, like, the whole, yeah, fuck off unless you have the dragon attribute, you know, just base ability of dragons isn't until they get to this state. Like, whatever, if Ignia had scales in his human form, even a horn or two, I doubt it would really matter. He has to get to this big thick form right here. But Natsu versus Brian, I think, is really interesting as just like a general setup. I figured we would, again, maybe have like some other fodder characters, like some other members of Fire and Flame show up and we see them. I'm still really hoping that we see a few members of their guild that we haven't seen yet. Just a couple of them. I don't need like 15, but if we can get like 3 or 4, I think it'd be really cool. Because, like, for instance, just as a note, the Signario sisters are the only females in their squad as far as we know, and they're sisters, so... And I still believe they're going to fuse together at some point, which is an extra thing. Because there's like that one silhouette dragon with 2 heads, and I was thinking... We have that one fusion between the versions of Duke that becomes a girl. So can they use that same fusion theoretically and become the Signario? I don't know. Natsu, I like how Natsu shows up. There's nobody here really, which also indicates that everybody else is gone except for Brian. And Brian kind of just jumps down, does like a cool entrance, and still has his hat on, which is really neat. I like his dragon form that we have so far. There's nothing really that crazy about it. We have a really cool tail. I was a little sad. I thought like the spike ring that's actually on the pillars was part of his tail, and he had this really weird spike crown end. But no, it seems like he just has a normal end of a tail, but it has the checkered pattern on it, which I think is pretty cool. I like that. And his like antlers, I think, are really neat. Because when it comes to Caramel, the first thing I think of in her dragon form, it's that one dragon for Monster Hunter that shoots bubbles. They're like these crazy bubble attacks. But it has this kind of like long serpentine shape, but it's like almost like fluffy looking. It would look very pretty. Like if Milotic was a dragon. Whereas Brian, I really like the antlers. I'm wondering if he's going to be our first canonical Eastern kind of Shenrani dragon. I think that would be really sick. Especially with the weird mouths thing. I still don't really know though what he's gonna have that's that much of a threat to Natsu, because we don't really know too much about what his power was like in name. We know that they all use fire magic. I assume that fire magic is just one aspect of Brian's abilities, unless his power is just hands and fire, which I mean is still cool. Maybe he was an entertainer, he was in the circus where these powers collectively made sense. But like as a dragon, I'm just wondering what exactly his form is going to look like. Like, is his hat going to be where his mouth is? Is he going to be some weird nightmare looking creature like the gaping dragon from Dark Souls? Like, I don't know. I'm intrigued, but at the same time, I'm not bought into the idea that Brian is going to really blow me away with his capabilities. I think that he's going to do good, but I feel like if he gets like him and Natsu in a fight, the moment Natsu pulls out Dragon Force, it's going to be like GG's done kind of thing, because Brian was doing decent against base Natsu, but it's like that was base Natsu, like, and he's got a dragon like buff now, but Natsu has lightning fire dragon mode. He also has lightning dragon mode, and he's got fire dragon king mode, and he's got dragon force, and on top of that he's got the whole fire dragon king scales that he's got set up where he's using fire dragon king mode and he's using dragon force at the same time. We're not going to count his Aetherius aspects because he can't use those at will, but there's still just a lot in his arsenal that like Brian never even got to, and it's like it's kind of like, I can't use Boruto. That's a terrible way to use an example right now. Plus, like, he only has like the 2 forms. The easiest one is just Goku. It's like a guy, like, he fights Goku and then he comes back and he like, I want to fight Goku again. This guy got a power up for him, and it's like, yeah, cool, he's capable. Maybe, you know, he's more capable now, but it's like, you really think of it, it's like he really only skirmished with Goku in base, and Goku didn't even really go all out in base, because that's essentially the same thing with Natsu. Like, Natsu didn't even really get pressed too hard. He just kind of got a little bit surprised by Brian a lot of the times with how weird his abilities are, and then just like the fact that he thinks his fire's gross and he's weirded out by the hands and stuff. But I don't know, I'm very much intrigued. I've liked Brian. I'm just hoping that if his character is like, Mishima's like, all right, this is it for his character, he's done, I need Natsu to kill him. I feel like I think it would just be unfortunate if his character got to like a point where he got, you know, became a dragon, he has all this stuff on it, and he just kind of is defeated and then forgotten about. It's like, otherwise, what's the plan? I don't know. I feel like he needs to get either killed or like defeated so bad that like there's no way he's gonna be able to come back right now. I don't know. Again, this is a fight that I have very like almost uncertain stocks and hype for, just because this is a weird one right now that we have. I didn't think we'd be seeing it as so soon. I thought this whole idea we're gonna get Brian versus Zero, so eventually like switch over and we get Brain versus Brian, and their similar names can clash, which is funny because in the fan translations very early on, way before we had the officials, like Brain's name was translated as Brian. So there's a period where he was just Brian, and now we have an actual Brian. But I really like this bit. I really like that he's here, like he's in charge of the castle, and that he is going to fight Natsu, because I feel like for him, it's going to be cool to see a little bit about his character. Maybe we get a bit of lore about what's going on and everything. But at the same time, I want to see Natsu just get a good clean fight where he's not, obviously with Ignia, where he's at a disadvantage, or he's fighting some guy that's absolute fodder. I want it to be like Natsu he's in a serious fight, he's taking it seriously. This isn't one that he has like direct, really emotional stakes into, but he's still, again, he's locked in. And we see him just in a serious battle where he's not trying to negotiate really with the enemy. Maybe he's trying to like converse with them to get, you know, figure out what he can, get a little bit of information. But other than that, I would really like it if Natsu and Brian was just a straight big brawl and battle, especially against the, you know, as we've seen throughout the series, when we have dragon type characters fight, things get usually pretty chaotic. But the Ignia stuff too, you know, that's probably my biggest thing about the chapter. I can't wait to see this battle, like just the two of them. I really like the Brandish bit. I really like that, again, we see Brandish show up at the end of the chapter, and again, it's going to be very interesting to see Lucy and Brandish fight together, because Brandish's magic is so weird. So I wonder, like, obviously, like, in a 1v1, I know how she fights, but like in how she's gonna fight support, especially like fighting Caramel, what are they exactly going to do here? I don't know. Again, very much hyped for this one. This is like a weird fight that I really want to see. I'm usually hyped for Lucy fights just because Lucy fights are really fun, and meanwhile we have the Ignia fight, which I think is just going to be really crazy. With Ferris, I really am so stoked to see her just pull out some black magic spells. I love to see Repent. I love to see Nemesis. Maybe like she tries to do Lullaby or something, but I really want to see her pull out spells, naming them like with idea of Zareth, and she shows things that we just never saw, like spells from the Book of Zareth, Because I think it'd be really cool if she starts out with spells from the Book of Zareth, not just obviously with demons, but like stuff like Nemesis, which is like a set spell within it. But then she eventually, like, that's her starting thing where she kind of like, you know, is an idea of her base, but then she switches to, you know, spells from her books, and she does like specific spells and creates more demons. So I imagine that she can do obviously a lot of that on her own, because also with what we do know that she should just have in pursuit of people like Zareth is any black magic that she shows, we know Zareth had mastered, because we know out of magic Zareth mastered black magic specifically, not just all magic. You know, it was never he mastered all magics, it was he mastered black magic. You know, he got living magic and all these other things, but like black magic, the branch. And we know more about black magic, so it makes sense that he would be able to do relatively anything without repercussions in black magic, because he's already immortal. He's not really human anymore, so any of like the demonic influence wouldn't really affect him. But this fight I think is going to be really hype. I want to see just Ignia side. He's in raw power. I assume that he's going to go into his humanoid form to start. I don't imagine he's going to start on his dragonoid form, but he's going to start, you know, in my guess, humanoid form, and it's going to be pretty much him just attacking and blazing and burning things that Ferris throws at him, but her just doing like summons and different black magic spells and just pulling different crazy things. Maybe she has spells that we know about, not even just black magic. She pulls out Jupiter, Abyss Break, Ars Magia, starts just doing stuff like that where she's just dropping it on Ignia, trying to see what works and test things out. Maybe she's combining them to create new spells. There's a lot here that holds a lot of hype. Especially, I think it'll be really neat to see just this extremely high level character going up against, you know, somebody who is going to be able to counter most of what they could do. Because one thing it will provide with us as well is seeing what all these different types of magics without the dragon attribute will do to a dragon. Because I would really like to see more of that just in direct action, and see if she like maybe tries to work things around it. Because even though she has the dragon capabilities with the Acnologia arm, I would really like to see Ferris just test out things and really kind of just want to get her feet wet at this scale and like at what she's fighting, because we don't know if she's ever fought a dragon before, and now she's going to be going up against Ignia. So really hype setup chapter. Like I really enjoyed just like the spots that I figured would happen again with Lucy and with Caramel and Brandish. The only thing within that was in addition that I didn't think we were gonna have was like Lucy giving commentary about her ability to breathe underwater while in her Aquarius form. Because again, I just like when we know certain like little traits like that, because it gives it things for the series. Because like if you were in a situation where it's like, oh well, you know, a water attack showed up, oh, Lucy can breathe underwater with Aquarius, she's okay. It's just one of those things where it provides a whole setup. Like obviously at the end of the last chapter, it's like, how is she just underwater and okay? Oh, Aquarius Stardress, yeah, it makes sense. You know, just the things like that that really kind of like really round it out. And then with Natsu and Brian, I'm uncertain about how Brian's gonna overall perform. I'm hoping he at least does pretty good, or you know, maybe even better. Maybe he'll do great and he'll have a really cool fight, just because it might not be about him, but it might be about just he as the first dragon demonstration out of them, and he will be like a really cool fight for the sake of really kind of showing where these dragons are at. Maybe again, it's like he's either going to be someone who gives Natsu like a pretty solid fight, or he's going to be like one that really sets the tone for what we're going to be seeing, as you know, as we're seeing the first dragon character, not counting Ignia, but like the people that are becoming dragons out of fire and flames. Because like Caramel was just a person, like as far, I don't think she really even like had anything combat or magic wise. I don't even think she could heal. But Brian was a pretty you know, clearly capable wizard. Even if he was only able to keep up with base Natsu, that's still really impressive for just some random guy we've never heard of, and now he's a dragon. So he's going to be having a progressively rising set of capabilities. And then with Ignia and Ferris, I think this is going to be really cool. I mean, the Racion Seis being sent out to go do everything. Racion Seis, see the names, man. Racion Sex. You know, I keep saying because I was going to hyphen it to OS, but it's like they're all OS. So it's like I keep doing O-sex, like O-S, and then like E-C-H-S, but a lowercase. Kind of like that. But seeing them, you know, they're going to go spread out. They're going to go do their fights. I really can't wait to see Zero. I still really like the idea of Zero against Gray. But because I was thinking maybe it's like, oh, well, maybe Gray will fight Blade, but like the Snake Sword, maybe he'll fight Crowbra. We'll see. And I feel like Bird is going to get humbled by Wendy. Out of like all of the characters from all the sides, I feel like if any of them was just going to get completely wrecked, it's him. He gives off the deep vibes of just some guy who's going to be talking a lot of shit, and then he's going to get thrashed early. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.